In a small village nestled between towering mountains lived a poor man named Ravi. His days were long, his struggles endless. As a laborer, he earned just enough to scrape by, never knowing the taste of luxury, never knowing the sweetness of life. One morning, while walking through the forest, he spotted something glistening in the sunlight. A wild beehive hanging from a tree, golden honey dripping from its edges. He stared, mesmerized. The sight filled him with longing. How sweet it must taste! How rare, how rich, how unlike anything he had ever known. A hunger awakened in him, not just for food, but for something more, something better. He had to have it. With a ragged basket in hand, Ravi climbed the tree, his fingers gripping the rough bark. He was not a man of knowledge, not a man who understood the wrath of bees, but his desperation blinded him to caution. As his hand reached for the hive, a sharp pain shot through him. A single bee had stung him. He winced but pressed on, determined. Then came another sting, and then the swarm. A furious cloud of buzzing filled the air as hundreds of bees poured from the hive, their tiny bodies darting at him with relentless fury. They stung his arms, his legs, his face. He flailed, swatting desperately, but it only made them angrier. The agony was unbearable. The bees crawled beneath his clothes, into his hair, into his mouth as he screamed. His skin swelled, red and raw, blood mixing with venom. His vision blurred, his limbs weakened, and at last he fell. He hit the ground with a thud, his body convulsing from the sheer torment. But the bees did not leave. They were not finished. Hours passed. His cries echoed through the forest, but no one came. Slowly, the bees, as if possessed by nature's cruel will, began to build upon him. They covered his motionless form, their hive merging with his flesh. Honeycomb twisted and curled around his limbs, his torso, his body no longer just his own. Ravi lay there, helpless. The pain, the horror, the madness of it all consumed him. His breaths came in ragged gasps, his mind slipping between reality and nightmare. Then, at last, voices. A group of villagers, drawn by his distant screams, arrived. Shocked by what they saw, they worked quickly, smoke and fire driving the bees away. They pulled the hive from his body, stripping away the grotesque fusion of man and honeycomb. Ravi was rushed to the village hospital, his body ravaged, his skin forever marked by the merciless stings. Days passed, then weeks. His wounds healed, but the scars remained. He had survived, but he was never the same. For the rest of his days, his body bore the lesson he had learned too late. Sometimes the sweetness we crave comes at a price too high to pay.